The Nightside Project. Finish the day happy with Ethan Millard and Alex Keary on KSL News Radio.
Welcome to the Nightside Project. I'm Ethan Millard. Alex Keary's stepped away, and I'm going to conduct this episode all by myself. I can tell you how excited I am to do this. First, I want to remind you to look us up on social media, Ethan Millard KSL, Alex Keary KSL. We always love your input and your ideas for this program. But I'm excited because I have here in studio one of the great soccer players of all time. Now, he would say he's a football player because he's from England. I've got Robbie Fowler, formerly of Liverpool. Robbie, thanks so much for joining me here.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
You know, this is such a pleasure, and I spent the morning going through it, and I'm sure you're aware of this. I just watched video after video on YouTube that your fans have put together of your highlights. You know, they kind of they record on TV or pull it from wherever. They put some music down, and it's just you playing the most amazing soccer. It really was fun.
I tried my best. That's all I could do.
Well,
I think you're too kind at the start there. You said I'm probably one of the best players ever. I think I think you might have to make the door a little bit bigger.
Well,
I won't be able to get out.
Hey, look, I don't make the door. So I'm not the one that scored enough goals to be, you know, in the top 10 highest Premier League scorers in history. I mean, that was you, my friend. You walked through that door. It's not for me to make it bigger or make it smaller. Let's go back kind of to the beginning. And this isn't exactly the beginning of your career, but it's, I think, what a lot of people consider to be really where you kind of took off. And it's August 1994. And I know you know where I'm going with this. This is Liverpool versus Arsenal. Mm-hmm. Big match. Arsenal, huge competitor, extremely tough in the Premier League. And Liverpool takes them down 3-0 in just a major first half blitz. All three of those goals coming from one 19-year-old young man named Robbie Fowler.
It was, look, I mean, I'd played a few games before that, but I think that's probably one of the games that I'm famous for. To score a goal in the Premier League is quality, but to score 3 goals in such a short space of time, you never alluded it today, but it was a den record. It was an hat-trick in 4 minutes 33 seconds, I think it was. So, unfortunately for me, it's just been broken last year, but that record lasted for 20 years.
It did. The quickest hat-trick in Premier League history at that point stood for 20 years. You did that as a 19-year-old. Against Arsenal. I mean, top players will go hours between goals. And you did 3 in 4.5 minutes.
Look, I think without sounding a bit of an idiot here, I think, I was lucky because I played in a good team. And when you're playing or surround yourself with good players, I think it's a little bit easier for you to get on the end of chances. As long as you're a little bit clever and getting into those right areas, then the players who you're playing with will supply the passes. I think what was special about that performance was it was against an Arsenal team. Look, I'm sure everyone will know who Arsenal are, but Arsenal over the years have been renowned for being one of the best defences in the Premier League, or in England, sorry. So regardless of what era our Arsenal team was, they always had good defenders. And you can imagine this skinny, raw 19-year-old lad, scoring goals against them was too good to be true. It was a team that had 5 England internationals in the back 4 and plus the goalkeeper. So yeah, it was really special.
Well, I can imagine it must have been special for the fans to watch because as you mentioned, you'd already played a number of games for Liverpool, including one where you'd scored several goals. So Liverpool knew how great you were. And it's kind of this game where everyone else realized, holy cow, this Robbie Fowler is something else. And one of your teammates from back then, he described your style, or one of the elements that you have in the game is he said you have a total lack of panic or fear, the mark of all great strikers. And what's that like? I mean, to get right up there against the goal. Some cases you're one-on-one with that, maybe with the last defender or with the keeper. How do you set aside that panic? We see so many great players get up there and then kick it right out into the stands.
Yeah, we look. I think it's not rocket science, and anyone who's involved with sport will tell you that the more you practice, the better you get. Look, and I know practice might not sort of it'd be exactly the same as what would happen in a game. But I think if you do repetition and do it over and over and over, and look, it's a bit boring doing it all the time. But look, I wanted to be a good player.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the very best player, and I knew I needed to practice all the time. And I knew that there'd probably be situations where what I've done in practice, I could sort of relate to that in a football game, and I've done that. And yeah, I mean, all through my career, I've been given the tag of, oh, you're the most naturally gifted goal scorer, and I sort of disagree with this because, I mean, I've worked hard at my career. People see you come into a football match and you think, oh, he's natural, but they forget the years and years and years of hard work and practice that I put in. And look, it's not rocket science, and I mean, obviously there's going to be a few kids listening to this, and that is the secret. The more you practice, the better you become.
Well, and I guess maybe that practice helps you too, because the game can sometimes seem like a blur, doesn't it? I mean, it feels different than practice.
Of course it does. Look, and we'll get players who are so good in training, and then they sort of they don't put the performance in that the training suggests that they can do. And that's where the mental side of sport comes in. So as long as you've got the mental attitude to go on there and play in front of, I don't know, whether it's 50 people or whether it's 50,000 people, if you try and focus on what you're doing and try and not worry about what's happening out there, then everything becomes easier.
Is that why you didn't realize that you had set the record for the quickest hat trick in the league? Because I know when you got off the field, you were surprised to learn how quickly you'd scored those 3 goals. You thought it had taken you 15 minutes at least to score those goals, and you'd done it in 4.5.
And look, that's not me being silly. I mean, when you're playing football, and look, it was 4.5 minutes, but it felt on the game much longer. Obviously, I think people, are well aware of how quick the Premier League is in terms of teams coming at you and you going at teams, and everything's sort of back and forth. And I remember the Arsenal team having a few attacks in between goals. So I mean, that's why I always thought that it was a bit longer than the actual 4 minutes 33 seconds.
Yeah, just so quick. Well, and of course, you go on to score well over 100 goals across the league, and also for Liverpool. Now, a lot of people, soccer, football has just taken off here in the United States.
Yep.
Over the last couple of decades, it's just gone big. I mean, really huge. It started to pick up a lot of steam in the 90s when we hosted the World Cup here.
Yep.
And for a lot of young players, they're starting to play. Some of them are going overseas. You start to see more American players overseas. They're playing in our home league here, MLS, Major League Soccer. And, for a lot of these players, for them, the kind of real goal is for them to play on the national team, to go and represent their country in international play. You had a chance to do that.
Yeah, I did. And look, just to go back to what you were saying there about the football, certainly in the States, I remember going, back years ago, 94, when the World Cup was in America, and the cameras would pan around the crowds, and it felt false, if I'm being honest. I mean, the football or the soccer felt as though it was forced upon people, and you were forced to like it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're waiting for it to kick on and sort of explode, but it never really happened. But I think back to the last World Cup in Brazil, and I was doing obviously broadcasting for a few of the channels back in the UK. I remember the cameras panning out to the crowds and coming back to the fan parks that were over here in America, and they were full.
Yeah.
And for me, it felt real then. It felt people really loved the game, and people wanted it to develop more. And since then, we've seen a lot of players coming over to the MLS. We've seen a lot of young up and coming players who quite rightly want to play for the country. And I think if you're a sports person, playing for your countries, that's everything. You want it. That's the very top. And we're getting that, we are getting that in this country. So I think it is real now, and I think it's going to develop further. The more teams are, getting into the MLS, the more people are going to love the game, and it's sort of expanding out into, places that, you may never have seen football or soccer.
Can I ask you to weigh in on a pretty common debate around here, around these parts?
You can do, yeah.
How many years do you think before we see the United States put up a team that could really win the World Cup?
Well, look, it's not as easy as what you think. And I remember in the 90s, all the African teams were doing very, very well in the World Cups, and everyone was saying, these are going to be a major force in 20, 30 years. And they've not really developed as much as what they they hoped. I think certainly the way the football's developing now, I think we could see a team really, really close. Actually, look, it's not going to happen overnight, and I think everyone's sort of wise to that. But look, the way it's going now, the way people are loving the game, and the more time and effort that people are putting into the game, I think that's only going to make it grow. So yeah, it's not going to be an overnight success. It's going to be obviously a work in progress. And look, within 10, 20 years, I think we'll see certainly better teams over here, and when you got better teams, that means the standard of football is better because the players have improved, and and once they started to improve, then the national team will certainly get better as well.
Well, and I think what you're doing here this weekend actually really plays a role in this, because you're here with the Liverpool Football Club International Academy here in Utah, and which kind of connects an academy here in Utah with your club over in England, Liverpool. You're here helping these kids. Others are coming over here, and we're developing this relationship where young people here in Utah are going to learn to play soccer in the Liverpool way. They're going to learn it from Liverpool folks. They're going to learn that style, learn those values. And it seems like that's the kind of thing that kind of gets us on the way to really competing internationally, isn't it?
Oh, definitely, and it definitely helps. I think when you've got a club, the size of Liverpool, the stature of Liverpool, and what they mean. And look, they've had international academies, in different parts of the world. This is the first one here. And look, I think you said it yourself, where the kids are going to get taught here exactly what the kids back home in Liverpool do. Same coaches. Obviously, there's going to be a few American coaches but the syllabus will be the Liverpool way. And look, it's exactly what I was taught when I was 9, 10, 11. Taught by the very best coaches, and this is the plan to do over here. And look, it certainly is going to help the players.
Yeah. Well, there's a clinic going on right now this weekend with the Liverpool Football Club International Academy here in Utah, and you can go to the website lfcacademyutah.com. That's lfcacademyutah.com to kind of learn how to connect with that organization. We're going to grab a quick break, and then when we come back, would you mind a few personal questions about your family, kind of stuff like that?
No problem.
All right, we'll be right back with Robbie Fowler on the Nightside Project.